Are live. Fantastic. Well, welcome to our Community for Life edition of FINIS Friday. If you poke around, you might notice some changes to the format here. We got a few people underwater, and this is so we can see each other's faces and kind of lean in, have a little more fun. In preparation for today's event, I had a wonderful chat with Bill Brenner, who will say hello in a second. But I think he had the perfect quote for today, which is, "Swimmers are never strangers." So my goal for today is to make sure that's true. So if you planned on just passively listening, think again. Put on a shirt, turn your camera on. We're going to introduce our guests, but then we're going to go into small breakout rooms and introduce ourselves. So what we're going to do is you're going to have 60 seconds to introduce yourselves each, and we're going to be in groups of 4 or 5. And we're also going to say your name, what team you're from, and what you miss most about swimming. And associate producer Clark from FINIS is going to set up those breakout rooms. But first, I want to introduce 2 incredible people. We have 2 leaders with us today who have really devoted their careers to building community in this sport. And more than anyone I know, they're kind of the glue that brings our secret society of swimming together. So our first guest, Kerry O'Brien, is the head coach of Walnut Creek Masters. He started coaching in 1980, and Kerry's a level 5 ASCA Masters coach. In 1987, he was the USMS Coach of the Year. In 1992, he was the Pacific Masters Coach of the Year. And there's even an award named after Kerry, the Kerry O'Brien Coaching Award, which honored those who share his passion for dedication to the profession of Masters coaching. I had the pleasure to swim with Kerry 10 years ago, and there's really no better community builder out there. Kerry, say a quick hello. How are you?
Hello, everybody. Good to see you.
Welcome to the show, Kerry. So we'll dive in with Kerry in a second. I want to introduce our next guest before we go into our breakout rooms. Bill Brenner is the COO of United States Masters Swimming, and if there ever was an evangelist for our sport, he is it. Bill coached age group, collegiate, and masters swimming. He's deeply involved in supporting club and coaches with clinics and continuing education. And during non-quarantine time, he does as many as 200 club visits a year. Is that true, Bill?
Yes, it is, believe it or not. It's kind of pared down to closer to 100 now, but it used to be 200. I think I recognize just about everybody on this screen here. Maybe I visited you or I've worked with you, so very, very happy to be here today.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to dive in, but I want everyone to get a chance to meet each other and say a quick hello. So Clark's going to set up the breakout rooms in just a minute. So we're introducing ourselves, give your name, what team you swim for. If you don't swim for a team, say where you do swim and what you miss most about not being in the water right now. Or if you can get in the water, tell us your secret, because we will find you. So Clark, take it away. Back, everyone. How cool is this?
Welcome back. We didn't even finish. We only got through 2.5 people.
That's tough. That's tough. Hi,
Gwen.
How are you?
I'm good. I got my birthday swim this morning, 4 miles.
Well, so maybe later we all need to sing you happy birthday, huh?
Oh, thanks.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
That's great. Looks like we're still waiting for people to come on in. Oh, hi, David.
It's cool what you're doing, Gwen.
I know. This is fun, huh? This is really great.
Feels like so, picnic with swimmers.
Exactly. Exactly. So Clark, give me the word when I feel like we're all back together. Are we waiting on a room or two?
My group's
I think we're okay.
All right. Welcome back. I think that worked pretty well. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
Worked great.
Fantastic. All right.
we got all the way to Poland.
Amazing. I love that. This is so fun. All right. Well, let's hear from Bill. I would love to hear from you the answer to your question. What do you miss most about being in the water, or give us some secret to how you are getting in the water?
Well, a lot of people miss the socialization, first and foremost. They miss the fitness of actually being in the water. They're, I think many of us are trying to look for alternative sources, and I'm looking at this screen full of people that have actually posted great workouts that they can do inside their own home. And we're obviously very thankful for that. We kind of even miss the smell of the chlorine, and I tend to agree with that. For some reason, there are certain things that are just triggers that you're in the right place, where you want to be as soon as you walk into that pool, and you get that whiff of chlorine, and it just takes you back 20, 30, 40 years maybe. But it's the things that we miss that we don't realize that we're missing. The Zen approach to it, of people just having their face in the water, looking down, and seeing something in front of them besides their pillow. So we miss a lot of things about the water, and we're anxiously waiting our return.
So Bill, while you have the floor, why don't you tell us a little bit about master swimming and the history? I mean, I think most of the people here in the U.S. anyway are in some way affiliated with USMS, and it's a big year for you guys. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Yes, this is our 50th anniversary. We go back to obviously 1970. We were fortunate enough that we had some visionaries back in those times that were kind of counterculture, because if you go back and look at the history of health and fitness, believe it or not, many people thought at that time that adults over the age of 60, if they exerted themselves, they were going to die. They were going to have a heart attack. It was a negative implication for their health. But we had a visionary in Ransom Arthur, who was a physician with the Navy, who wanted to study actually the effects of exercise and intense exercise on adults. And the studies that he did were kind of paved the way for our organization to have its beginnings. John Spaneth was the American Swim Coaches Association. Yeah, let me think if that's right. Yes, president. He lived in Amarillo, Texas, and Ransom and John got together and said, hey, why don't we host a meet? And they did, and it was May of 1970. And so we went from having 56 swimmers at that initial meet to now we host in excess of 2,000 swimmers at our nationals twice a year. So we're very fortunate to have those visionaries and so many people in between. We are celebrating 50 years. We're doing that, unfortunately, a little more remote than we would like because of the situation. But if you get access to our swimmer magazine, you'll notice that each edition celebrates a certain decade. And not the entire magazine is dedicated to it, but a large portion of it to give you some of the history and some of the background, which is very unique to our sport. So we're very fortunate that we've got to this point where we've not only come from a competitive nature, but we've gone to more of a health and fitness community. And then also just within the last 5 years, fortunately that we had the leadership in place with Nadine Day and some of the other board members that allowed us to begin teaching adults how to teach other adults to swim. So now we're kind of the cradle to grave of swimming. And I'm very proud of our organization for taking on every bit of it. And it's because of the people that are in this room and many others who have supported these efforts, who have been teachers, who have been coaches, that have made our organization extremely successful, and we'll continue that into the distant future.
I love that. Well, congratulations and happy birthday to USMS.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Candles.
Yeah, light a candle. Hey, Kerry, where's Kerry?
Yeah.
Let's hear what you miss most about swimming.
Well, in our group, we were sounded like we're a combination of both coaches and swimmers, and the connectivity piece was big. I talked about, for 40 years, I've had the opportunity to have conversations with between 120 and 150 people a day. And that's taken away from me now. And so I'm at home with my son and my wife, and, a lot of the stories that I normally tell, they've already heard. So,
well, tell us one then, Kerry. Tell us the story. You have an audience now.
Oh, well, it's just like, you want me to go into one of the ones that we were talking about earlier this week?
Yeah, totally. And actually,
Sure.
while you talk about it, I can share some photos.
Okay. So I was in talking to Quinn, he was asking me about remembering things that I remember. And it was early on in my career when I was coaching. And we had an older woman on the team who was 85 at the time. Her name was Ella Peckham. And you don't have to be familiar with California, but Ella would drive from a neighboring city through a tunnel to get to Walnut Creek. And it was probably about 16, 17, 20 miles at the most. And Ella would drive to get to the 10:30 workout. Ella would leave at 9 o'clock in Oakland. And I saw her on the freeway one day. She drives a 1965 Thunderbird. She's in the slow lane. She can't be going more than 35 or 40 miles an hour to get to the 10:30 workout. But she was a backstroker primarily, and we had long course nationals up in Portland. It was probably 82 or 86, I think was the year. But she was the 200 back, and she was in lane 7, and in lane 8 was a woman named Pearl Miller who was in her age group. So the only two in the 85 to 89 age group of backstroke, and they were neck to neck the whole way. And Pearl would pull ahead of Ella a little bit, and then she'd kind of run into the lane line, and it's kind of like a bobsled hitting the channel, and it would slow her down, and Ella would get ahead, then she'd pull ahead. And they went through this for like 200 meters. And at the end, Pearl ran into the lane line one more time, and that gave Ella the edge to out-touch her. And so I wanted to go up to Ella and congratulate her, and then and talk to her a little bit about her race. And her response to me was so great. It was actually one of the impetus for one of my first cartoons with the wall in. Is I went up and I was talking, we were discussing the race, and she looked at me with kind of a sly look, and she said, "Do you realize how long it's been since a young man put his arm around me and asked me, how did that feel?" I was probably 25, 26 at the time, and I was just blown away by this, and it always stuck with me. So when we started doing the wall lane cartoons for the magazine, it was one of the first things I came to was Ella and her response to her 200 backstroke and my talking to her. But she was in 1985. She was the oldest swimmer at the Masters Games in Toronto, Canada that we went to. And we have another woman on our team who now is at the age that Ella was back in those 80s. And she's been on the team. Donna is the gal I'm talking about, has been on our team before I was there. So she's one of the 5 or 6 people that are actually Walnut Creek members before I started coaching in 1980. And she brought in one day, she's going through some stuff, and she found her Red Cross beginner swimming card, and she flipped it over and showed me the back, and Ella Peckham was her teacher.
Wow.
So Ella had an impact.
That's amazing. So Kerry, while I'm sharing some videos, why don't you tell us a little bit about this next picture?
This picture here, this was, we had designed a new team suit, and the idea was that we had our Pac Masters Short Course Championships coming up in Pleasanton. And so the challenge I made with my team, that is, if we ordered 100 team suits, I would wear a women's suit in competition at the Pac Masters Championships. And here I am.
Oh, that's beautiful. How'd you pick the suit, Kerry?
This is going to be a lot easier to get on than a one piece.
That's great. I love that. Okay, so Kerry, I know you do a lot with Adult Learn to Swim. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that program?
We're so pleased that United States Masters Swimming started their Learn to Swim, their Swimming Saves Lives Foundation, and part of that is the Adult Learn to Swim program that they established, where each club in United States Masters Swimming creates an avenue for people who've never learned how to swim to learn how to swim. And it's not we do a really good job of vetting people. It's not to help people get better at their swimming. It's for people who've never learned how to swim for either whatever reason is they've got to the age they're at and they've never learned how to swim. And at the same time, we were kind of figuring out some things with adult learn to swims by watching it. And we had developed a teaching progression that we found that with our class, what we do is we put a snorkel on them first, because once we get them comfortable breathing through the snorkel, anything we're trying to teach them, they can do for the entire length of the pool. And so what we found with our program is that the learning curve just really takes off. Once we get them to talk about relax, breathe, and press is the mantra that we give them. We get them comfortable, get them breathe through the snorkel, and get them to press their chest so they can balance their body. And so our teaching progression is a one-on-one. We have 15 students in the water at a time with 15 volunteer teachers with them. And so that allows them to go through at their own pace. And it's all about just getting them comfortable first, getting them breathing in the water. And so then we go from teaching them a skill on a kickboard to teaching them to what we call soft hands, where they put the palm of their hands in the palm of the hands of their instructor. And that's immediate feedback to the teacher that if they're not pressing their chest and balancing their body, there's downward pressure on their palms. So that tells us that they're imbalanced. So once we get them to think about pressing their chest, and that pressure goes away from palm to palm, then we do the same skill solo, where they actually do it by themselves. So going through this progression of relax, breathe, and press, from kickboard to soft hands to solo, that's the way we work through our progression. And it's such, talk about building community. It's such a great thing to give back to our communities for people who don't know how to swim, but it's also an opportunity for our membership to also give back too. And it's a 3-week commitment. We don't use the same people all the time, but it's great. It's one of the best things we do. It's part of our legacy, I think.
That's fantastic. And I know John Mix, who's on the call, FINIS founder, joined at one point and helped out with that program and had a blast. He said it was one of the most rewarding things he's done. Hey, John, are you there?
Yeah.
Maybe John disappeared.
I'm here.
Hey, John. So tell us about your experience with that program, and then I want you to tell us a little bit about this picture from way back in the day.
I think we found Kerry's program just so rewarding because, I don't regularly swim with a master's team. I go to, just for a matter of convenience, I have a pool at an athletic club down the street, and I've become friends with a lot of people who really were not swimmers. They were people that were looking for something to do at the athletic club, and in a completely different building is where the swimming pool is, and it doesn't get a lot of attention. So I'm the guy in there swimming, and I'm the guy who becomes friends with the people that come in there, and they decide they want to take up swimming. And so some of these people, they really are at that learning level. And I find it so rewarding when I embrace it. And then when I heard about Kerry's program, I got to go out and watch. Kerry's group was a whole level above the people that I got to see in my pool. Kerry's group were people that were actually fearful. It was maybe a lifelong goal. Like, I want to learn to swim. I'm an adult and I don't know how to do it. I'm afraid. And Kerry's program, I think it was a couple nights a week, maybe 3 nights a week for 2 weeks. Am I right, Kerry?
3 nights a week. Yeah, 2 weeks then.
And wow, just the nurturing that program had in it, the thought process that Kerry had put forth to say, these are the things that we're going to do each day. And then he gets his local swim team members to participate. So everybody has call it a big brother or a big sister helping them through the program. So it's a really safe, welcoming environment. And, sometime during this 2 weeks, you're watching people swim 25 yards across a pool or 50 yards and just come up with the best set of bright eyes of bewilderment, that it's like, wow, you don't get to experience things like this very often. And just remarkable. Just You know,
That's great.
I talked with Kerry a number of times saying, how can you take that platform and scale it so that others can do this as well? Because it works. It was a connection between the swim team, the community, and getting people in the water. And once they learn it, they could do it forever. So it was great.
That's
Really
great. So I know, Bill, you've been involved with USMS for almost 40 years, and there's a robust adult learn to swim program. And I think it's easy to be very focused on our own swimming and our own communities, but I just love the fact that you're doing all of the capacity building you're doing and growing and evangelizing the sport. Why don't you talk about what USMS is doing with adult learn to swim?
Well, first I want to thank Kerry for, really helping the organization adopt the fact that master's programs and master's swimmers can be the lead when it comes to helping the communities face that problem of adult drowning.
It's okay.
We're just trying to, what we were trying to do with Adult Learn to Swim is, one, we have a foundation that the charitable arm of US Masters Swimming provides grants to those programs that are teaching adults how to swim. And it's been a very successful program. Many of the people on this call right now are grant recipients and have used that to actually teach adults to swim. The other thing I want to thank Kerry for is that snorkel idea. That was great. We've adopted that into our curriculum, and it's become one of the very important pieces of actually getting the adult to feel comfortable, because the breathing is the challenge for most people. And when you take that, that necessity to turn the head to take the breath, or even worse, to lift the head to take the breath, learning to swim becomes a lot more enjoyable, and people tend to want to stay in the water a little bit longer and get the other pieces of it down. So the Adult Learn to Swim, we've certified close to 2,000 adults how to teach other adults to swim in the last 5 years. They're out there teaching lessons left and right at their own aquatic facilities. Our master's programs are helping tremendously. April is Adult Learn to Swim Month, every other year except this one. But our master's community really enjoys, just like John was saying, seeing the thrill and the excitement that people have when they've learning a skill as an adult, and such an important skill that they come to learn how to do it for so many reasons. But the biggest thing I think is that most adults really want to learn from somebody that looks just like them, that can empathize with their situation, that can share stories, share passion for things that they have in common. And all of a sudden, that when people become more relaxed, it's an easier learning process for people. And I think that's what our master's people do. They understand how important swimming is for them, and they just want to give that gift of swimming to somebody else and pay it forward. So we're looking for many, many years of continuing to teach instructors and also teach adults. Mike Ham is in the group today. He's one of our lead instructors in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, that travels around and teaches. We also have the chair of the ALTS committee, Kerry Stoller from Minnesota, in the group today too. So I just wanted to give a shout out to those two people that really dedicate a lot of time and energy to this cause.
That's great. Thanks so much, Bill. So the snorkel is getting some play here. I love the snorkel. It is FINIS's second ever product. But I wanna go back to a photo we looked at a minute ago. The very first FINIS product was in fact the monofin. So John, I wanna hear about this amazing story, and then we're gonna get ready to do another breakout room. So John, what's going on in this photo?
All right, so you've got so you got Jeff Pfeifner on the end, and Matt Pataki, Rich Roll, and Pablo Morales. Jeff, Matt, Pablo, and I, we grew up together swimming and playing water polo. Rich was a teammate of Pablo's at Stanford. And when we first decided to bring this monofin to market, what Pablo said is after the '92 games, we got together for a swim, and I said, did you use the monofin in your training? And Pablo's response was, the what? And I thought, the monofin. I said, Burkhoff used one in 88. Don't you know the monofin? And he says, I don't. So I took a monofin that I'd brought back from Europe and had Pablo try that. And his response was, wow, this is really fun. And I said, well, do you think it would benefit swimming? He says, oh, for sure, this would be great. And I said, you want to start a business? I figured out this monofin stuff. And we said, we'll start a business, and we were going to make products that swimmers and coaches would find useful as tools for swimming. Well, but once you started using the monofin and feeling how fast you would go, Pablo started thinking about racing again. And he says, you know what? He says, this whole monofin racing is interesting. Why don't we, instead of just making monofins for like swimming, let's try and go race. So we played with that idea a little bit. So this is a fin swimming competition at Ohlone College, and I think Pablo and Matt and Rich, I think they went from here. They went to Hungary with Misty Hyman and Jenny Thompson and a couple other people saying, yeah, let's go try this world of monofin racing. And they came back from it and said, like, yeah, it's fun, it's goofy. The reality of it is they came back and said, although it's fun, is it really where we wanted to take the business? Where we wanted to take the business is there's such a broad use for the monofin in developing what we learned for, a balanced dolphin kick, the underwater portion of the race, the kicking in both directions. There are just so many more reasons to stay focused on as a tool for swimming rather than racing. But this is back in the day when our heads were spinning and we were trying to figure out if we wanted to be a part of this, fin swimming world.
That's great.
We didn't.
So, if you haven't used a monofin, they really are fun, and they just make your whole body turn into a dolphin. It's really a remarkable feeling. So I encourage everyone to try that. So speaking of butterfly, Kerry, you have an incredible story about probably the hardest race I've ever heard. So I want everyone to be thinking about the hardest race or hardest swim they've ever participated in. And we're going to do another breakout in a minute, but Kerry's going to start by telling us about a Masters Nationals a while back.
Yeah, so we were back at Minneapolis, Minnesota for Nationals at the university there. And it was the 200-meter butterfly. And in one of the earlier heats, there's an older gentleman swimming in lane 8. And, these butterfly races, as we get older, these races take a long time. But this guy was racing. He was looking great. He was with the field and everything for about 2.5 laps. And about the third lap, he started to falter a little bit. But he made the turn and he started coming back. And as the rest of the field started to pull away from him, he was still going. He was struggling, but he was making forward progress. And he got to 25 meters left, and everybody else was kind of done. And it's high wall, so not a lot of people were able to crawl out. So they're waiting in their lanes to allow him to finish so they could cross to get to the ladder. And he gets in, and he's got about 10 meters to go, and he's really starting to struggle. He gets inside the flags, and he's struggling so much that the wake that he's creating with his body trying to go forward is getting to the wall before him, bouncing off the wall, coming back and hitting him, and essentially keeping him in the same spot. So he stopped making forward progress, but he's still taking his strokes, and the crowd's getting behind him, and everybody's yelling, go, go, go. And it's getting louder and louder, and he's been there for quite a while inside the flags. And there's a gal up in the lifeguard chair, and she gets down out of the chair, and she walks over to him. She's looking at him. She's holding her tube, and she finally just puts the tube and jumps in and pushes him into the wall. And so he makes the wall, and everybody goes, oh, like that. And then as soon as they finish their big run, they go, yeah, that was the right thing to do, because he was not making forward progress. And she just took it upon herself. She says, it's my call, it's my responsibility. She just jumped in and just pushed him into the wall.
That's great. That's amazing. I just love the visual of being 2 feet from the wall, swimming butterfly and not moving.
It was literally 2 feet. And the wake was just hitting the wall, coming off the wall, and just keeping him in the same spot. But he was determined, I tell you that.
That's amazing. Awesome. So I think what we're going to do is go into another breakout room, and I want everyone to share. It's going to be a different group. So introduce yourself again and tell a story about, you have 1 minute to tell a story about your hardest race or swim if you haven't raced, just the hardest race ever. So Associate Producer Clark is going to set that up whenever we're ready. And I know Merle has a story about swimming a 10K in a monofin, open water, which sounds horrible. Is that the one you're going to talk about, Merle?
No, I have ice swimming stories.
Those are hard.
But,
Those are definitely hard. Okay, well, so
it was a great idea.
All right, I'm back in the room. Who's with me? Hi, Hector. I see Hector.
I'm here.
Bill's here.
Yep.
All right. You get some good stories, Bill?
Yeah, it seems like 200 free is a beast for people, but at least 2 of my 3 participants.
It was a 200 free. Wow.
200 free, believe it or not. Yeah.
It is a tough one. Those middle distances will wear you out.
Well, you know, one of the people telling me about his 200 free was Clark. You know, so yeah, Clark is, if you don't train long course and you go in there and sprint a 200 free, you're going to pay the price sometime.
That is
Bad
true.
idea.
Yeah.
We had a lot of open water swimmers and stories and ice swimming stories in ours, which was
No thanks.
whole other beast.
No,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's cool. You guys should try.
You should
Hey,
absolutely try.
Since I'm on unmute and Merle's on the screen, we can all wish her a happy birthday. Happy birthday,
Happy
Merle.
birthday, Merle.
Happy birthday.
No. So I have to tell you guys that I broke the laws. I was swimming 4 miles this morning at the open water. And I have a swim group in Miami, and we are about 200 swimmers. It's a group who comes together on Sundays, 8:30. We swim around those Star Islands that are in Miami, and then we always have breakfast. But because it's quarantine, so everybody goes in from the rocks, and so often police looks at us, and then he's like, if everybody is running and you guys keeping distance, just go and swim every day if you want to. And today was, it's really magical. There's no boats, and you swim around the island, and then everybody stopped and were singing happy birthday to me. But I think like sharks are having a party, because I feel I see more sharks right now. So they are making a baby shark. So it's kind of scary.
Be part of that.
Well, happy birthday, Merle. So guys, we only have about 10 minutes left. So I do want to hear a little bit more from Bill and Kerry. The hardest race, let's hear your hardest race story, Bill. But then I want to get to a question about how you really build community. I mean, that's the topic of the discussion. And I want to give folks something to go home with to think about how they can be community builders in their swim family. So first, hardest race story you heard in your session, and then tell us how you build community.
Well, I had 200 free from Alberto and from Clark. So they both at different times in their life. One was very early with Alberto when he was 12 years old. And it stuck with him to this day that is the hardest swim he ever had, just because he just didn't pace himself correctly. And that's fine, because you're 12 and maybe your coach should have coached you better. But now Clark, you can't go and sprint a 200 long course free and when you've only been training limited amounts, especially at your age, and you're young. But still, as we get a little bit older, we've got to temper our enthusiasm and our expectations just a little bit, so it isn't quite so painful, and we actually finish looking like when we started a little bit more. So those were the two things that stuck out of my mind about some difficult races both being the same one, but at different times in people's lives.
That's great. Clark, we'll talk about negative splitting later. So Bill, tell us, what can folks do in their home pools, in their home communities to help kind of build that fabric? Because I mean, that's something you spend your career doing quite literally. And, you know, it's not always obvious. It's not always the coach or the leader, but it's people who spend a lot of time and energy thinking about how they can make connections and be a strong support network for the group at large. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, you use so many good adjectives and nouns when it comes to, it's a group, you know, it's a family. This is people's extended family. We, you know, especially as we age, we have a lot of people that have lost a loved one or a spouse, and that rely on the masters community and their swim community to be their family. Extended or not, it's where they go to find the socialization, whether it's with their gutter mates, as Koki Lipinski in Arizona calls it, that they have their own community within a lane, within the practice, within a club, within a community of other master swimmers when they go to events like swim meets. It just brings such joy to my heart to see the smiles on people's faces when they're with their people. And that quote that you gave me earlier on about I've never met a stranger, or I've never met a swimmer that was a stranger, holds so true for many of us, that once you know you have that common bond, you've got something to talk about. And it's something usually quite positive or funny or engaging, whether it's in an airport, an elevator, no matter where it is. So building community, yeah, it does start with the coach in many cases, because he's got to lead the program into a culture of inclusiveness, whether it's being inclusive based on people's background, their swimming ability, even their non-ability to swim, that you're going to recruit them to come in to learn to swim, to make them safer in and around the water. So many facets to it. You know, and there's just so many great coaches that keep engaged even during these difficult times. Mike Collins out at Nova is doing a wonderful job engaging not only with his swimmers, but with our entire masters community with something called the soup can challenge, and swimming with soup cans in their hands and going through a workout, including the turn, including the streamline. And it's very, very nice. And it's very nice to see how people want to give back to this community. And it's multi-generational too. And that's the other thing that warms my heart, whether it's the 95-year-old Willard Lamb setting records from Oregon with the support of his son at every one of these swim meets, and his coach, Matt Miller, or like Ed Suzuki and his family. It's multi-generational. They're swimming relays with 3 or 4 generations. And it's, you know, Ed's parents, Ed, and Ed's kids. And it's kind of like, wow, it's so much fun that we can be that inclusive as an organization. And we hope that all of our programs strive for that. So it's quite a community, it's quite a family, and more people should participate.
It really is a special community. So Kerry, how do you think about your community at Walnut Creek Masters, and how have you built that up over the years, and what can people do in their own communities to help replicate it?
Yeah, I think what I notice is when people come out to the poolside and they're thinking about joining Masters, or they're going to give it a try, or we encourage them to come over and try swimming with us. That I think what I love about it is that they come out and you're essentially stripped down naked, except for a very thin piece of material. So, I mean, there's no way to hide who you are. This is who you are, but you're fine. You walk out there, and I think what happens is that people come out there and they're not looking for people who look like them. They're not looking for people who dress like them. They're not looking for people who are educated like they are. They're not the same. They may not be the same color as they are. They're looking for people who swim about the same speed they do. And when they see that person, that's where they beeline to. Those are their people. And it's more about being comfortable in your skin and being with the people who swim about the speed you do. You know, all these other things that take place outside of the pool, on the other side of the pool, those don't matter here. And I think for 30 years of my job, I was a full-time employee for the city of Walnut Creek, and I'd have to go as an employee. I would have to go to these breakout groups and these retreats and stuff. And once I kind of got over myself and started paying attention to what they were saying, I realized that there's a lot of things that I could learn, because this essentially is my business. And so I knew that I had to come up with a mission and a vision, and we had to have plans, and I had to figure this out. And so we sat down and we came up with our mission and vision, which was that essentially says that in an atmosphere that promotes physical fitness, teamwork, personal challenge, and social camaraderie, Walnut Creek Masters strives to have every person exit the pool with a heightened sense of accomplishment and self-worth. That's our job. That's our job, is to have people come in through this conduit of swimming, make them feel better about themselves and be in a safe and encouraging environment, so that when they leave, they feel better about themselves when they came in. And so that's, and you know, I'll go to my grave saying that everything that we've enjoyed successfully as a team always comes back to just trying to live by that mission and vision on a day-to-day basis.
That's great. That's great. Thank you, Kerry. So I want to call out Michael Collins, who's maybe the only person on here with a cooler background than us. Nice job. I'm going to try to pin your video so everyone can see it. There we go. Look at that. Mike, you want to say hi?
Hello, everyone. Nice to see you. We've been doing a lot of Zoom calls with different groups and with my own team and everything. So that's my new hobby, is to just find a bunch of crazy backgrounds and keep changing them through the meetings, because these meetings get to run on a bit. So about every 5 or 10 minutes, I got to pull up a new background, keep it going. This one's from Kona. Around the time of the Ironman, we went snorkeling. And that's my wife with the blue cap. And this other one's one of our swimmers. And she's funny because she like puffs her cheeks out so wide when she holds her breath. So we call her the puffer fish now.
That's great.
Every time she go underwater, she'd do the big holding her breath thing. And we were just relaxing underwater because we were more comfortable underwater than she was. But good times. It sure is weird with all this shutdown of not being able to see all your people. I feel the same way as Kerry. We're used to talking to hundreds of people a day, pretty much rolling in and out of the program. And so without that, I was pretty lost. I mean, the first week I was busy just trying to organize some things. And then the second week, I have no idea what day it was or where I was going or anything. And then by the third week, I got a little bit of a rhythm. And we started doing the Monday, Wednesday, Friday soup can practices at 6:30 a.m. And now I have somewhere to be, at least for that, and organize for it a little bit. And so it's been new challenges to get that going. And it's good. It's a workout. And I'm doing it myself too, which I'm used to coaching and telling people what to do and sipping my coffee. And then I swim and somebody else coaches. But I'm learning what it's like to be like a yoga instructor or something and have to be executing and talking like you're not totally out of gas at the same time. I'm not good at it, but it's good new challenges to do. But I'm nervous about this coming back, you know, slowly. And are we going to be limited to one personal lane and stuff like that? I have no idea, but I'm nervous about it. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, absolutely. There are a lot of unknowns. So I do want to keep this to an hour. So we are going to wrap. I just want to say, you know, if there are people like Kerry and Bill and Mike and a bunch of you on this call who really are the kind of glue in your social network, I think it's worth just thinking about them and appreciating them and thanking them, or trying to be that person yourself, because it really is so important now more than ever that we have these networks and community. So I'm personally very appreciative to all of you and the greater swimming community, and I hope to do more of these. So thank you all so much for joining us on the community edition of FINIS Friday. Do you guys like this new format? You like seeing each other's faces? Thumbs up? Yeah?
Thumbs up.
All right. We'll do it again.
Great. Yeah,
so we'll send around some show notes, and we'll share our very cool background so you guys can be underwater like us.
Thanks, Fred.
Yeah.
Fantastic, guys.
Have a good weekend.
Happy Friday.
Take care.
Thank
Everyone.
you. Stay tuned. Bye-bye.
Thank you.